If you're listening to this file, it's likely you're someone who thinks about hypnosis a good bit. So take a moment now and think about hypnosis. Ease into that feeling of focus, of relaxation. And as you do, I wonder if there's a part of you that could also give yourself permission to imagine. Now, imagination can be a funny thing. There are times when our minds create flights of fancy, images, sounds, experiences that seem to come from nowhere. Those can be enjoyable, of course, but some people also find them fleeting. The imaginations or the dreams, perhaps, that stick more closely are the ones that come from little moments of our own lives. Sometimes we imagine a moment in time replayed for the sake of being seen again, heard again, felt again. So I wonder now, as you listen to the sound of my voice, if you could recall a moment when you were hypnotized. It need not be the most profound experience you've had, the deepest or the most intense, though those are certainly fine options. Instead, follow where your mind leads and recognize that the moment that comes to mind is the one to open up. Perhaps you already know, or perhaps you're learning now, that the act of recalling a time when you were hypnotized before has a tendency to activate or reactivate those parts of your mind that tend to come to life as the rest of you begins to fall asleep. And I wonder, as you imagine or recall that time when you were hypnotized before, whether you noticed that subtle shift in your thinking. Of course, you're here listening to my voice, thinking of hypnosis, of sleep, of dreams and imaginings. So a shift isn't really that much of a surprise, is it? But as you recall those moments now, and you notice the way your body and mind have begun to shift now, you may find that recollection is not just mental, but also physical. Maybe it's the way that that one hand just feels a little bit heavier than the other, or perhaps lighter than the other. It could be the way that your muscles have just become the slightest bit more loose, more heavy, more relaxed. And for as many people as notice that physical piece first, others may find that the recollection of trance brings back mental sensations. For you, it may be that fuzziness that's at the edge of some dreams, some trances, or it could be that focus. Not quite tunnel vision, but also the way that my voice seems to become more centered in your mind. I don't know whether you noticed the changes in your body first or your mind first or second, but what we do know is that as you recall the way that trance felt, being someone who does enjoy going into trance, right? The part of you that desires to be in trance simply follows that memory into the present. It's interesting, isn't it? The way your mind is so capable of bringing you closer to that state that you enjoy and seek and remember. Certainly, my words help lay a path to follow, and your body's own desire to let go of the tension that was there a while ago makes the path clearer. And yet, the more you recall that feeling of being hypnotized, the more hypnotized you become. And there's a point where reality and recollection start to diverge as you recognize that now, in this moment, listening to my words, present where you are now, that this trance can begin to feel different from that trance. You may find that perhaps your body is a bit heavier now, a bit more loose and unwound. Or you may find that the fuzziness in your mind is just a bit more noticeable, more pronounced. Perhaps it's the way that my voice and my words just take up a little more space right there in the middle of your mind. And that space expands out in ways that just feel right. As memories of then intertwine and weave with the sensations of now, you may even find that the feeling of trance, that focus and floating, the heaviness and the lightness grow more and more pronounced with every word I say, with every breath you take, with every thought that enters your mind and then simply floats away. That's right. And there may be a moment, perhaps soon or perhaps in just a bit, where you realize that feeling of trance has begun to grow on its own, that your unconscious mind has taken that memory of trance, that essence of letting go, and turned it into something that just continues to move within you as you find yourself more focused on my words and how good it feels to just be good. Now, there's something interesting about how our minds work. When we have an experience and when we recall that experience, it's not just our own role in that experience that we remember. When you think about that time that you bumped into an old friend in an unexpected place, it's not just your own point of view that you recall. You remember their words, their tone, their body language. And in the same way that recalling a time you've been in trance can bring back those feelings of trance, it's also true that your recollections of your time being hypnotized are about more than just your own experience. And that's the thing. It's so easy to think of yourself being hypnotized, to remember the words, to feel the feelings, to be that hypnotized person that you so deeply enjoy being. But what if? What if you could take that experience of being hypnotized and look at it differently? What if you paused that memory at the point right where you went to that deepest place of trance? What if you took the perspective that you have recalling that memory and made it bigger somehow? What if you looked back and recognized all that you had seen, all that you had heard, and all that you had felt? And what if you thought about other trances, other times you've been hypnotized, and noticed those same things, the words you've heard, the things you've seen, the way you've felt? What if in doing all of this you realized how closely you've paid attention, not just to being hypnotized, but hypnotists themselves? What if you heard that one phrase, the one that sent you just spinning into trance? And what if you heard your own voice saying it? What if you felt that touch, the one that made every nerve stand on end right before your muscles let go and you melted into trance, and you felt your hand giving it? What if you saw that look that caught your eye and then heard that word that caught your mind and you saw yourself delivering it? What if you realized more and more now that all the things you've seen and heard and felt as a subject, as a lover of hypnosis, were actually lessons? What have you thought about how every induction that you read that fired your imagination was leaving traces of learning behind? What if you recognize now that every time you've been in trance has taught you more about how to lead someone else there? What if you could hear your own voice building a path for someone to follow into trance? What if you could see the look on their face as it became heavy and slack? What if you felt the feeling of knowing you'd led them there? What if you imagined that moment with sight, with sound, with touch, when you knew you were hypnotizing them, you were really hypnotizing them? What if you felt that feeling? What if you heard that sigh as they let go? What if you could see them nod gently when you said, "You are in trance now, aren't you?" What if you saw being a hypnotist through your own eyes? What if you recognized and realized how much more you knew than you ever thought? Because you do know more than you think. What if you heard your voice telling them you understood their limits? What if you saw yourself building suggestions in a way that was safe and effective? What if you felt the pride of seeing them respond so naturally, so easily? What if you knew how confident you would feel even that very first time after you listened to this file? What if you felt that and saw it and heard it in your own voice now? What if you know more than you think? What if every time you've been hypnotized, you've been learning? What if every time you've read about hypnosis, you've been learning? What if every time you've fantasized about what it would feel like to be able to hypnotize someone to bring them down into that state, you've been learning? What if in this trance, now, you are learning? And what if you could access that knowledge that you've built up in a different way? What if you took that knowledge, that learning, that information, that desire, that curiosity, and realized that you could use it all now? That's right. Each of us who think and dream and fantasize about hypnosis have built and continue to build that base of knowledge in ourselves. And you may find that knowing that fact makes it easier and easier to recognize your own ability to be a hypnotist yourself. Perhaps you'll find it easier to find the right words at the very start. Or perhaps you'll find it easy to settle into that pace that just feels right. As you practice and learn, you'll find your knowledge will only grow, and your ability to support the people you hypnotize in ways that are safe and appropriate will grow with it. And knowing that now just feels good, doesn't it? To see and hear and feel yourself as the hypnotist that you want to be, knowing that you know these things just feels good, doesn't it? Now, in a few moments, I'll ease you out of trance and back into the room around you. As that happens, though, you may notice the way that you bring back an energy, a confidence in yourself and your skills as a hypnotist. And you may notice that as you awaken in a few moments, you do so confident in your ability to seek consent and use your knowledge to listen and respond to the people you hypnotize in ways that benefit them and you. You may even notice that in the days ahead, you'll find it easier and easier to picture yourself in the role that feels right to you as someone who hypnotizes other people. But for now, as you imagine those feelings sinking in, you begin to emerge from trance slowly, easily, and effortlessly as I count you up to 5. At 1, making your way back up at a pace that just feels right. At 2, more and more awake and aware and in tune with your body and your mind, feeling those thoughts just begin to come together. At 3, more aware of the room around you, bringing back those good feelings and those new realizations about yourself as a hypnotist. 4, you're almost all the way back now. Eyes opening, body stretching, feeling good. And at 5, wide awake.